Thanks very much. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Pat Forbes. I'm the Executive Director of Louisiana Office of Community Development. My agency's sole job, is administering disaster recovery grants from HUD. Unfortunately, we have way too much business. But I will walk through this presentation for you. It shouldn't take too long, but I will say that there's been just today we have received the Federal Register notice from HUD. It will be published in a few days now, but what that means is now we can submit. I think you're all familiar with the fact that we were first allocated $600 million for Hurricanes Laura and Delta. And then subsequent to that, HUD allocated an additional $450 million. Because they allocated it at two different times, it's going through the process as an action plan and then an amendment. That's not going to slow down the stand-up of any of our programs. I'll walk through that with you, but I want to make sure that's clear for folks. This is good news. We've got the rules for the other money now too, and we can proceed with updating the plan to reflect the new amounts is essentially all it is. And we've already put those budgets together, and in fact, we've already done public meetings in Calcasieu Parish relative to that new plan. So, first, a timeline. The most important bullet on this timeline is not actually there, and that is when the storms hit y'all in 2020. Finally, we received an appropriation from Congress in September of 2021. HUD allocated that first $600 million in October of 2021. Allocation is different from the rules, which occurred January 31st. That's the first day that triggers our ability to submit an action plan. In all honesty, we have been working on the action plan since the previous spring. We always anticipated getting an appropriation and wanted to make sure we were as ready as possible whenever that came. So you can see that we then submitted the action plan for publication for public comment February 21st. We also, on the day that HUD released the Federal Register notice, we put the survey for the Restore Homeowner Program up and started inviting people to enter that. That's one of the most important messages I'll have for you tonight, and I'll repeat it later on. So they allocated another $450 million, as I said. I just had to update this slide today to say that we got that we had submitted the action plan for the $600 million on May the 6th. I didn't update it to say that we've gotten the rules today for the $450 million. I'm going to say this again because it's super complicated. It's complicated for us, and we live in this every day. We're going to ultimately have $1 billion for recovery from Laura and Delta. The 650 lets us start every program that's in our toolkit. We won't spend that before the 3 months or so that it takes to get the other approved. So this difference in time between the two allocations is really completely meaningless. We've got $1 billion, and we've submitted the action plan to HUD for approval on May 6th for the first 650, and we'll submit the amendment to add the funds as soon as they let us. So, in other words, early summer, hopefully June, July, we will be able to get the money from HUD in the account that we can start drawing from, and that is literally the day we will stand up full speed the Restore Homeowner Program. I will tell you though, we are already out doing environmental reviews. That's the first step to rebuilding somebody's house. We are already out doing on a few pilot applicants the damage assessments. We want to make sure all of our equipment and processes are a well-oiled machine whenever we get those funds available and can kick it into full gear. So these are the total of allocations, $1 billion for, it's $1.05 billion for Laura and Delta. At the same time, they allocated $1.27 billion for Hurricane Ida. In addition, they allocated $10 million for the floods in May of last year. And so that allocation is actually coming straight to the city of Lake Charles. We're still talking about how to make that work with our program, but that is yet another appropriation and allocation of funds for dealing with disaster recovery in Calcasieu Parish. So these are the parishes that HUD identified as most impacted and distressed. The reason this is important is that 80% of the funds allocated to us have to be spent to benefit these areas. That is either families, individuals, or projects within these parishes, or in some cases zip codes you can see there. In some cases they only chose a zip code within a parish. HUD also, with this allocation, has said that we have to prioritize vulnerable populations, and their definition of vulnerable is a combination of two things. One, what sort of disaster risk, physical disaster risk does an area face? And then two, how vulnerable is the population in that area? So you can see on this map, there's sometimes a red right next to a gray. That probably has way less to do with how much physical disaster risk there is and much more to do with the vulnerability of the population. Things like the age of the population, the poverty levels, people living in manufactured homes, things like that. So this is the proposed budget for the $1 billion. And these are all the programs articulated here. Restore Louisiana Homeowner Assistance Program is where we rebuild homeowners' homes. They have to have been it was their primary residence and they were the owner at the time of the storm and still own the property and have major severe damage determination from FEMA. But we have a whole program ready, contractors getting in place to start building homes whenever we get that line of credit available. We've got a couple of other programs that go along with that below there, flood insurance and interim housing assistance. That's basically to help folks who can't afford those things who are in the Restore Homeowner Program. There are just some things we've run into in the past that made it clear we need to have those assets available. We also build affordable rental housing. These storms were different from many storms that we have recovered from in the past, in the sense that usually we're about 55% homeowner households, 45% renter. This disaster is actually flipped. It's about 55% renters, 45% homeowners. And so most of the damaged households were renters. What this program does is not necessarily provide any direct rental assistance to those impacted households, but it builds affordable rental housing that will be affordable as long as 35 years into the future. We have programs that work with developers and low-income housing tax credits. We have programs that work with mom and pops who own just a few units, and we can give them a loan and help them get rebuilt, and then they promise to rent to low to moderate income families for a certain amount of time at affordable rates. So there are there's also, interestingly, the middle market loan program, which we think is going to be particularly helpful here in the Lake Charles area, where rents, as we understand it, have been super high even before the storms. And that means that even middle income families have been getting priced out of the rental housing market. And what the middle market loan program does is gives us an opportunity to fund some housing that's got not only low to moderate income, but also some middle income units in it, so that we can help to start building up that inventory of housing as well. A small business loan and grant program, $100 million We work through nonprofits, credit unions, in some cases, planning districts. They act as lenders for us. We don't know who the businesses are, who need the money, who have been impacted, but those nonprofits that we work with do. So we grant money to them. They go out and make loans and grants to small businesses. It's been really, we have refined it literally since Katrina and Rita, and it's been really successful in helping small businesses keep from going out of business. Now here we are almost 2 years after y'all's storms, and we understand that that's particularly critical now, hopefully not too late. In addition, we can use these CDBG funds to pay the match on other federal programs. And so what we are proposing here is paying the match on FEMA public assistance and on the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. You're probably aware that both of those have been reduced to 10% match for those disasters, and so that's a big boost. What that probably means is that we will also have funds that we can allocate to local jurisdictions to do smart mitigation things. So it will essentially be at the direction of the local governments to decide how to spend those funds within the constraints of CDBG funds and whatever we tie to it. They will be mitigation funds, which means they are for reducing the risk from future disasters. So just to recap of the timeline, we launched the survey in January, submitted the plan in May. We're now just waiting for HUD to approve it. We've had that take anywhere from 30 days to 60 days or more. We hope this will be shorter. We've been working with them for years and years. They know how we write these plans. And then launch the Homeowner Assistance Program the day that we get the funds in the line of credit. This is critical for your constituents. If you have homeowners who were impacted by the storms, they should go fill out this survey, restore.la.gov. It's easy to get to, and if they don't have internet access, they can call this phone number, 866-735-2001, and somebody on the other end of the line will fill the survey out for them. But it's a critical first step in potentially getting assistance from the program to rebuild their homes.